On this podcast, we talk often about life, loss, and what truly matters. And part of that is taking care of the life we've been given. Did you know that cardiovascular disease and stroke are two of the leading causes of death in the U.S.? Yet 80% of these can actually be prevented. That's why I've partnered with Lifeline Screening. They offer a package of 4 quick, painless screenings for just $159. It's one appointment at one of over 14,000 locations across the country. No needles, no hospital gowns, no hassle. Just simple tests that can bring peace of mind or provide early detection. Lifeline Screening has already screened more than 10 million people, so don't wait. A simple screening can change the rest of your life. Click the link in my show description to schedule your appointment today. And now for today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Grief Observed podcast. My name's Brad Morrell. I'm your host. And if you'd like to join me for an episode, you can find me on Facebook, TikTok, or Gmail, all under the name of Grief Observed Podcast. My guest today is Brandi Stoldt, another person that I found on TikTok. I found her videos interesting, and I reached out, and she gladly accepted the invitation to come on and speak a little bit about her grief story. So I will let Brandi tell you a little bit more about herself. Brandi, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I like I stated, I love TikTok. I was really, I guess, against it for a long time. I'm like, it's just a bunch of videos but what I've found is inside of TikTok, there's a lot of different communities that exist, and it's almost like find your flavor. It's more flavors than Baskin Robbins, that's for sure. There's a lot of stuff out there, whether you want to shop or whether you want to find makeup tips, or here we are in the grief world, and that's where I found you.
That's right. That's right.
So
So
why
I
don't
think
you?
I've touched upon all those TikToks myself as well.
Yeah, it's I have found everything. My I don't know. I want to say sad addiction, but maybe not. The thing that I'm drawn to right now is all the nostalgic stuff. It was
Mm.
somebody had like a White Snake song on there or something, and wrote this thing like we were the warriors of the night, and it was nobody, no rules, and no curfews, and it was just a beautiful time, and everybody loved life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, take me back to like 1990. Like I want to jump back in time, but sadly time keeps moving, and now I've punched through and made the age of 50, and uh
Oh,
yeah, the ever dreaded 50. But here I am, and I do love life, and it's good to think back to the way it was, but I think a lot of times being nostalgic robs us of what's going on today. So anyway, a lot of talking to state. I found you on TikTok. Why don't you tell the uh audience a little bit more about you?
all right. Well, a little bit about me. So my name is Brandi. I'm a nurse. I married my high school sweetheart in 97. I don't know why he always used to laugh at me because I could never think of the date or the year. His name was Kevin, and we had 3 kids together. We were high school sweethearts. We started dating in May 31st of 1990 was our official date. And we grew up together. We laughed a lot. We supported each other through thick and thin. We went through times where we had no money, and then times when we did have money, and we always appreciated each other, and we came back to that.
Hmm. So whenever I speak about nostalgia, thinking about a high school sweetheart, that definitely, I'm sure, rings some bells for you, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, just to think that we went to high school together, and I remember I was introduced to Kevin through his cousin. And I thought, well, this is one of two things. I think he's kind of cute, uh, but he has long hair in the back. He had party in the back, business in the front going on.
Nice.
He had a mullet.
Nice.
And I thought, my parents are going to hate this. This is great. I took him,
Oh,
I had him come over and they fell in love with him.
wow.
They absolutely loved him. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I had long hair as well, and man, I miss those days. I know if for the listeners who have never seen me, they may can picture that, but the people who are looking at me on TikTok or Facebook or wherever are like, "You had long hair? Are you kidding me?" Those days are long gone. At first it was requirement in the Navy, then it was convenience later on, and I guess now it's just life. Like there may be a little bit of hair up there, but it
You
is what
still
it is.
find yourself running your fingers through your non-existent hair sometimes.
Maybe my goatee, but not my head. My wife says my head feels like a fuzzy duck on a card. Like I it does grow and I do have
Okay.
hair, but it does feel like that little fuzzy duck. But anyway, enough about me. So why don't we talk a little bit about Kevin and tell us a little bit about who he was and maybe a little bit about his life story.
Yeah. Kevin was, again, my high school sweetheart. He grew up assisting with the family business of building homes. And just before he had passed away, he was pretty much running a lot of that himself. His dad was semi-retired. So his dad had taken a step back, and Kevin was doing fantastic running a family-owned business. He was very kind and patient and always steadfast and a good leader.
Hmm.
Rarely was he angry, aside from being angry at our kids, for whatever mischief they had gotten into, but he was always firm, very well respected. He knew how to command an audience and he knew how to bring people back to maybe a little bit of a reality check. He was just one of those guys, and I feel like everybody who can talk about somebody who's passed can say that the person who has passed, they were magnificent and all these wonderful qualities, and he definitely had all of those.
Hmm. What was it like living with all that testosterone? You had three boys and a husband in the house. How did you survive?
I survived by getting a female dog.
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
There was a
Dogs,
lot of testosterone, but I don't know if even if I had a girl, I don't know if I would know what to do.
really?
I would have figured it out. I always wanted a girl, but you know what? God gave me my boys, and for that, I'm very blessed.
Yeah. Yeah. That is awesome. Well, let's make a little bit of a shift here. And if you're willing, I know that Kevin also passed away on a date very close to a day that you all started dating, right?
Yeah, we started dating May 31st, 1990, and he died May 30th of 13.
Wow. What was, may I ask what happened with Kevin?
Yeah. Uh it was close to our anniversary. So our anniversary was in August, and he was at work on the building site, and he was pretty upset that day. He was very frustrated. I talked to him approximately 3 times that day. We were trying to plan out our anniversary and kind of like what's for dinner kind of conversations that day. And he was very angry at a realtor that was going to be putting this house that they were finishing up on the front of a home finder. And for us, it was back when papers came out on Sundays and everybody sat down and read them, which is nostalgic. We don't hear about that anymore.
Right.
But so a very big thing for a small family company here in New York. And He had just gotten over having a flu bug, which two out of our three children had prior to him getting it. And we were camping, which is what we avidly loved to do, was go camping with our kids, and left our trailer down there, and we were seasonal people.
Mm.
He said it was like a Memorial weekend, and he said, "You know what? I don't feel good. I'm gonna go home early." And we had driven separate. So he went home and he was trying to heal from this gastric bug. He was not feeling so swell. So he stayed home. No, it was a holiday weekend, so he had stayed home Tuesday. Wednesday he worked part of a day, and Thursday, I believe, he had gone in to work a little bit more. And it was about 90 some odd degrees. High humidity here in New York is what we get. And I think with him still having residual and leftover flu symptoms, shall we say, he was depleted. So
Mm.
he's out in 97-degree heat trying to get all the dirt pushed back. So when they come to take the photo of the front of the house, it didn't look so unkept, shall
Mm-hmm.
we say. So the gentleman that was working with him, the story goes, is that he told Kevin told him to make another pass on the rock hound, which is a apparatus that you put on the front of a bobcat to get rid of the rocks in the dirt and to make raking easier. And the gentleman took the net, went down, he turned around, and Kevin was on the ground.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
yeah, I can't imagine being there. And his father was there, and I guess a couple people on the job site. And the first call I got was that he passed out. I told them to take him to a local hospital, which I had worked at. So I knew he would get the best care if he had to be admitted or whatnot. And I knew everybody there that worked in the emergency room. So the second call I got was that they called EMS. The third call was that EMS is there and they were doing CPR
Mm.
and they were going to a different hospital. I was already en route to go to the hospital that I suggested he get to, but they had to reroute to a closer hospital. It was at that point that I actually didn't even know where I was. I didn't know how to get from where I was to this other hospital that they were gonna shimmy him over to. And I just parked. It was a Delta Sonic, which is a car cleaning place. I parked there and I called one of our good friends and I said, "Tim, this is what's going on. I don't know what to do." He said, "Stay where you are. I'll come and get you and we'll go there together." I said, "Okay." As I sat there in my car, I remember a woman had pulled up. It's ironic that I'm sitting here in my car today, isn't it?
Yeah.
A woman had pulled up on my passenger side, and I was just sitting there and I was crying inconsolably, pretty much. And she got out of the car after a few minutes and she knocked on my window and she said, "Can are you okay? Do you need help? What's going on?" And I kind of just briefly told her what's going on and she said, "Come here." And she came over to my side and she goes, "Can you get out of the car?" I got out of the car and she said, "I need to give you a hug."
Mm-hmm.
And she just sat there and she just kind of held me while I sobbed. And I say this story because it's like one of those, I'd like to call them like a God wink. Uh,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, God sends you something that you need at that moment. And this same situation happened to me at my stepfather's grave, which was just several years prior. My stepfather was Eugene, and he had passed away suddenly in 2000. And I was broken over the loss of him because he was
Wow.
everything to me. And when I went to his grave once, I had a woman that did the same thing. as I was sitting there crying, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but women will understand. I was a little incontinent because I was carrying on and crying
Sure.
so much.
Sure.
I didn't want to stand up, but a woman walked over to me and she was with another man there. And she said, "Oh, honey, what's going on?" She said, I don't know who this is or who you've lost, but I can see that it's very much heartbreaking for you to be here. She said, "I
Hmm.
want to give you a hug." And she did the same thing. So another story of just a little God wink. It's that thing that you need right at that moment.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people who will let those opportunities go, whether to give or to receive. And it's not just hugs, but a lot of times we'll see somebody hurting and we'll think that it's an inconvenience for me to reach out and try to be what they need in this moment. Or
Yeah,
sometimes we're not in a good enough headspace to accept, like you could have easily turned down both of those hugs, but there was something in you that said, I need this. And I also think that, we may rob somebody of a blessing by turning something like that down. Not stating that we
yes,
should go around hugging strangers, but in certain situations, I certainly believe intentions would likely be good in those situations. So
I agree. I agree.
that's really interesting. So you said your stepfather had passed away a few years before, is that right?
Yeah, he passed
Okay.
in 2000. Kevin passed in 2013.
Okay.
But uh, as I waylay a little bit from our story of grief from my husband and father, I actually almost passed away myself in 2013.
Wow.
To be it was probably 2 months. So it was April 1st, 2013. Uh, I had a hysterectomy several several months prior. So April 1st, 2013, and Kev passed May. Uh, I had the procedure was on March 25th. And then April 1st, I woke up in the recliner chair, still healing from surgery. And I had this awful pain in my neck and in my clavicle. I'll get around to a circle of why I'm telling this story. It'll make sense.
You were good.
And I remember waking up and it was about 3 in the morning. And I don't know what everybody believes, but I know that I believe sometimes there are angels among us. And um, I was woken up by a sound that was on our second story open balcony that we had to my left. And as I was reclining in the chair, it woke me up kind of suddenly. My kids were asleep. My husband was asleep in our bedroom. The kids were upstairs, but nobody was up. And I remember thinking, why can't I breathe quite right? And why am I having this pain in my neck and in my upper chest area? But I kind of did what any nurse would, and you're like, you justify it. We're the worst patients. So I said, maybe it's just some leftover gas or residual from the surgery that I had. I called my friends in the ER and I spoke to the doctor and I told them my symptoms, and they also agreed with me. Maybe it's just the gas.
And I can
So
attest
fast
to the
forward,
pain from that from a hernia surgery last year. That is worse than the hernia surgery. Oh my gosh, the gas
it's
pain. Wow.
it's
Anyway,
no joke.
I
It's
digress.
no joke. uh, so I I called them and I kind of fell back asleep. And then it was about 11 o'clock that afternoon, and the kids were off of school for Easter. It was an early Easter that year. And I thought, huh, I'm still having this. Let me call Kevin. So Kevin was at work, and I called him and I said, you know what? It's still not any better. I think I should just go to my doctor and be seen. And he said, thank God he said this. He said, you know what? Let's just go to the hospital. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go to the hospital. I'm a nurse. I don't want to go there. That's the last place I want to be. I'm going to go to the doctor. They're just going to order some labs or an x-ray and I'll be fine. I wasn't fine. I went to the hospital. I found out after not very long that I had a couple blood clots
Mm.
in my heart that, well, went through my heart into my lung. So they were there affecting my breathing, and that's why I wasn't able to breathe. And the reason why I tell this story too is because I didn't find out till actually more recently over the last couple of years. Our babysitter that we utilized for our youngest at the time, Cameron, said, you know, Kevin came to me one day and he was picking up Cameron after seeing you in the hospital. I was there for 5 days and he was crying and he just was beside himself. And I said, really? Why is that? And she said, he said to me, he doesn't know what he would do without you.
Wow. Wow.
And that's where I say the God wink again. Uh, sometimes I feel like people may bargain with God and ask them, uh, please don't take her, take me instead, like the Tim McGraw song.
Hmm.
And I wonder to this day if that's what he did. Is that why I'm still here? I'll never know. Those questions we won't have answered. And he passed away May 30th of 13. So not long after I had my blood clot.
That is quite a story, honestly. I don't know what to say on that. That's but I think it's a testament to what your husband thought about you, you know? And to
I
hear
agree.
that secondhand as well, not that, if he had come home and said, I cried about you today, babe, and you'd be like, yeah, okay, whatever, but to hear it quietly spoken later from this person, um, it absolutely says this is exactly how he felt about you.
Yeah, and I'm not saying our marriage didn't have ups and downs because I think every marriage does. But we had just got done kind of rekindling, for lack of better words. We went to Maui just before my hysterectomy that year, and we were there for 10 days, and we came home so much in love. It just it just helped us and it healed us, and I am so thankful for that time that I had with him before he passed, not knowing obviously that either one of us were going to have any kind of health crisis and a death. Uh, so to have that is such a blessing to me to this day. It was funny because before he passed, I was looking at, I had the immortality going through my brain because I was just hospitalized. And I had gotten something in the mail about donation. Where do you want to send your eyeballs and bones to if something ever happened to you? And I thought, you know what, I should probably do this for my family so they never have to make this decision. And I went through the whole checklist and I said to Kevin, what do you want to do? Do you want to do any of this? Would you like to donate any of your stuff? And he did. He agreed to that. And he came to me at the back door after we were done kind of reviewing what we would donate and what we wouldn't, because we talked it out and kind of had a laugh about it. And he grabbed my hands and we're standing at the back door and he said, if something ever happens to me, I want you to go on and I want you to live life and I want you to fall in love again and I want you to do everything that you want to do. So then he looks at me and we're holding hands and it's a moment and he says, well, what about you? Now I'm thinking I'm the one who's going to kick the bucket. Is he trying to get a free pass here? What's going on? So I looked at him and I said, "Oh, hell no. I'll haunt your ass." And we laughed. Um,
That's funny
but it was,
because I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, it was just that God wink, that permission, that reminder that you need to go on and enjoy life if anything happens to me. And where
Yeah.
you think something is so funny and cliche at the moment, and it turns out to be such a blessing.
Yeah. Um, my wife has always stated if something happens to her, she's like, you'll be out dating the next week. And I'm like, no, I'll at least wait 2 weeks or so. No, I'm just kidding. I'm like, no, I have told her, jokingly, unjokingly, I'm like, through death or divorce, this is it. Like, it's too easy being single. I don't think I would want to, but I know me well enough to know that I would at least date because life is not meant to be lived alone. And I think that's one of the hardest things when I talk to couples or a spouse who
Yeah.
remains after their partner has deceased. And it's got to be so hard, and when is appropriate to, I'll say, date again. I don't want to say move on. I don't think that's appropriate at all. Let me give you an
Agreed.
example. I had someone years ago, and it was a friend who I knew had problems in marriage already. Their husband unexpectedly passed away. And this person's young at the time. And I would say young now because they're pretty close to my age. But um, she started dating fairly quickly after he had passed away. And I hadn't spoken to her in a while, and I sent her a message. I'm like, "How are you doing?" And she said, "I'm doing good, but I'm dating someone, and I know what you're going to say to me." And I said, "No, you don't know what I'm going to say to you." Now, of course, I put a therapist hat on too, but I stated, you expressed to me the problems that you were having in marriage before. I know marriage was difficult. Not that you wanted your husband to pass away, but I also know that it was a very difficult, long marriage. And when he did, I know she grieved. How could you not grieve after being with someone so long? But she also recognized that life does move forward. And I think she really needed to hear someone state, it's okay. It doesn't matter if it's next month or 10 years or never. It's
Yeah,
okay to do life your way. There's going to be people judging you, right? No matter what you do. There's people
absolutely.
already judging you, even if you have an existing spouse in your home right now without death. Like it doesn't matter. Like I always state, if I put you in a room with 50 other people, there's 51 opinions of you in that room, including the one you have of yourself, right? None
Yes.
of them are accurate. Like even the way we view ourselves generally is not fully accurate. So
Hmm.
so stop living for everybody else and do life your way. Whether you want to start dating now, later, never, it's up to you, And
Yeah.
and again, I've not lost a spouse, so I can't honestly state I would be devastated if my wife passed away. I really would. She may think otherwise or may think that I'm kidding or that I'd be dating next week, but no, I we share a lot of things that I would not be able to replace ever, no matter who I dated, no matter who I married.
Agreed.
And those are the things that I think people grieve, the things that are irreplaceable. We have, I'll say, some odd beliefs on life happenings and things that go on, and it's like I'll bring her something and I'll be like, okay, so I don't believe this, and she'll be like, okay, show me the evidence. I'll show her the evidence and she's like, okay, yeah, I see your point. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought you'd think I was crazy. Everybody else would think I was crazy if I told them that I didn't believe this or whatever, you know? And so it's the little things. So let me get back to you. I know I've been talking too long here about life and me, but
I
um, what are some little things that maybe you and Kevin shared? Things that you miss?
I miss our camping together or tooling around in the kitchen. And I remember a very vivid moment after we had again rekindled our marriage and had gotten home prior to my blood clot. And we were at the bottom of the stairs and we were having a good old fashioned kissing session, makeout session. And our son, who was 18 at the time, walked down the stairs and he's like, "Ah, God, could you do that somewhere else?" But it's remembering, those moments of intimacy and, how he played with my children and how all the neighborhood kids loved to be at our house. He was the dad who would go outside and play football in the fall, spring, and summer, and he would kick a soccer ball even though he wasn't good at it. He'd laugh at me for that. And ice hockey, built an ice hockey pond in the back for the boys in the winter. And I was the overprotective mother who didn't want them all skating on the pond, so he had to make a, 4-inch deep pond in the back
Mm,
that just housed frogs all spring and till the summer and winter, and we filled it up with water. So everybody came over to go skating and play hockey.
that is awesome. You won my heart over with that one. Go Flyers.
I won't say go Sabres.
No worries, but sounds like he really knew how to take time out and really spend time with others, and that's I think a gift that a lot of people don't have is being
Yeah.
able. I struggle with that whenever I see things that I've got to do, and I live on 24 acres, so it's always I've got to cut this tree or pick up this or rake this or cut that, and years ago, my wife basically said, as long as we own this farm, you're going to have something to do and it's going to be here waiting on you. So let's go hiking or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was a good reminder. And now, even as I state this, it's yet again another good reminder to take time out because we don't know life, life and all of the requirements are always going to be there. But the moments that you spend with your kids, the moments that you spend with your spouse, they're very limited. Very limited.
They are. The fragility of life. I take care of people when they're at their sickest, and it's just a good reminder you could be healthy one day and not not at all good the next.
Yeah.
And you just never know.
Yeah. It is life is full of surprises, some good, some bad. And I as life goes on, I'm thankful for the 50 years that I've lived. I don't know that I would want to live 50 more. I mean, I don't want to die tomorrow for I do want many more years, but um I think it's more about quality than it is quantity. How do
Yes.
we capitalize on the moments? I've got a friend of mine who is a wonderful photographer. And this guy, he has a different job. And I'm like, man, you are missing the mark. You should be doing this professionally. And I'm like, what? How do you capture this stuff? And this is what he told me. He said, anybody can take a picture, but it takes someone special to capture a moment. And that wasn't a salute or a pat on the back for him, but he's right. There's very few people who can truly capture a moment, and not just in pictures, but also in life. Like you can
Yeah.
show up to a ball game and sit there and play on your phone. You can,
Yes.
uh, you know, attend certain things and just be background noise. You can sit at the family dinner every night and just eat your soup. But the people that show up with conversation, and they show up wanting to invest in the lives of others, period.
Hmm. Yeah. We had definitely some kids that wanted to be at our house more than they wanted to be home. So much so that, I remember Kevin asking one of the boys who was over almost every day, sleeping there or spending weekends there. He said, Jake, do you mind giving me your social security number so we can claim you on taxes this year?
No
But we
doubt.
wouldn't have it any other way. If that's what somebody needed and they needed to just be with their best friend or somebody to play catch with them in the yard, that's what they needed and that's what he provided. And it's a legacy that he left behind. I know those kids will never forget. Our boys were 6, 13, and 18, and I feel that they carry Kevin's values forward, and his legacy definitely lives on with him through work ethic, humor, and kindness, all of that wrapped up into each one of my boys. So,
Yeah. And I can tell you, as a kid who was the kid that stayed at somebody else's house, when my parents went through a divorce when I was 15, my dad got custody of me when I hit 16. I wanted to live with him. Um, but honestly, I ended up living with my friends Mike and Chad and their parents. Chad, a lot of people have heard on this podcast me speak about Chad before. It's my friend that passed away 14 years ago.
yeah,
But Mike and Chad's parents were like family to me. I still check on his mom every once in a while, not as much as I did when Chad first passed away, but on the way to my mom's house or when I leave my mom's house, I always try to stop in and see this lady. She's very special to me. Whenever we would go on band trips and things like that, she would always pack me a hamburger and Pringles and, a Coke and all that. Like she really took care of me. So that's what I needed, and I probably owe them a lot of money at this point in life. Just like you said, they should have had my social security number as well. But very good
well, this
people.
is your reminder to, do those things
Yeah,
to
yeah,
everybody out
absolutely. It's funny you said that because this video I recorded right before you and I hooked up today was really talking about that and just talking about how I was walking my dog. I'll tell the full story since I don't tell it on this TikTok video that I shot, but I was walking my dog a few days ago and I thought about the older we get, the more funerals we attend. And if we are lucky to age long enough, there's going to be fewer people that attend our funeral, right? When you go to an
Yes.
older person's funeral, unless they were a part of some very large church or something like that, like when I went to my grandfather's funeral 10 years ago, and my grandfather was very well liked from everyone. And but most of his friends, we'll just say, had aged out, right? They had already passed on. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't a very large funeral. But you talk about like if a teenager dies, man, the whole high school's there, right? The whole community
Yeah.
shows up when that happens.
We've
So
attended those.
yeah, and that is so, so, so hard. Um,
Yeah.
but it's just interesting that the older we get, it does seem like we attend more funerals. But if we get into our 80s, 90s, when we pass away, who will attend our funeral? you know? It's a
Yeah,
really interesting concept how um, you would think as you age, you would pick up more friends and things like that, and that's who would be there. But the older you get, it's almost like the class starts thinning out, you know?
it does.
And I did
It
speak in
does.
this video too, about classmates passing away, and I think that's a sobering thought. You know, the older I get, um, I remember when my 30 year passed, my 30-year reunion. It's like I didn't go to any of my class reunions. There weren't that many people that I wanted to see, but um, and not many people went anyway. It was a smaller school. But I just thought, man, there's several people that I know that was in my class or class ahead or class below that have passed away, and so sobering.
Yeah, that was a shocker for me going to our first class reunion. Now, if you remember, we graduated together.
Yeah.
So going to our first class reunion without him was so strange. So
Mm.
strange. But it's those moments I like to call them like my hockey stick moments. You don't realize that a moment's going to affect you as much as it does until it happens.
Mm. Yeah. Life is short, life is strange, and yet here we are. And I want to take a turn here and talk more about your TikTok because I have seen several things about grief on there. Tell me uh, how you started your grief journey on TikTok, or why you started it, I guess.
So I love traveling, and it's something that Kevin and I did a lot of together. We were avid travelers. Our kind of motto, uh, unwritten motto, was every year we would take a trip alone together, and every other year we would take the kids also on a separate trip.
Hmm.
Uh, it's just kind of how we kept our flame. You know, a lot of people would ask us, like, how do you guys continue to be as connected as you are? Because we were, as my one friend liked to call us, Ken and Barbie.
Hmm.
And I think that had a lot to do with it, you know, making sure we had that connection and intimacy time together, aloneness, and open communication. But the TikTok started when I was on a trip just recently to Scotland. Um, I went, it was suggested by my now boyfriend uh, that we take a trip, and he had a trip going to London. So we tacked on Scotland for the week prior to that, and it was amazing. Um, so we had a long trip because while we were there, the tube system, aka subway, was picketing, and they
Hmm.
weren't running uh, subways at the time, which is a big way for people to get around London. If you've ever been there, it's one of their major ways of getting people to and fro
Hmm.
is underground. So we thought instead of flying into London and risking not being able to get to our place where we were staying, we would just take the rental car that we had from Scotland and drive to London. So we had a very long trip. And on our trip, we were discussing uh, my my travel, my love for travel, and my story. And how can we kind of combine that?
Hmm.
And he said, his name is Chris, and he said, you know what? You have a story to tell, and you can help people. And I think there's got to be a way that you can do this. So on our trip, I started throwing together a TikTok, a grief TikTok around that time, and really kind of trying to roll with that in my travels and what I've done. But I think it's important that, like Kevin left a legacy, I want to be able to help somebody.
Hmm.
Um, and it goes back also to a story. Uh, I was on a cruise It was our first Thanksgiving without Kevin. And uh, Jake, the one who used to live with us practically, his family was going on a cruise. And they asked me and my middle son, Josh, if we wanted to go along as well. So my mom took care of the other two at home, and Josh and I went off on our cruise. I did a lot of soul searching in that room. I didn't leave that room very much. It
Mm.
was our first trip without him. It was difficult, but I had a woman, and I actually posted a TikTok about it today, because it popped in my head, and I think it's important to give this piece of advice to newer widows who may not have heard this. She said, "Welcome to the club that nobody asked to join and nobody wants to join. But once you're in it for life." And she said, "Everybody that's in this club knows relatively what you're going through. We're understanding and we're supportive to everybody that's in this club."
Mm.
And she said, "Welcome to the club."
Yeah, I was invited last night on TikTok to join. There's a lady, her name's Jamie in the Wild on TikTok, and she invited me to what she calls the Death Club. And she has about 12 people. She keeps it fairly intimate and small, and they just talk about death and grief. And I tried to get in last night, but it was full. So it tells you there's a need. And I
There
said,
is.
"Hey, I'll catch you next time," you know. But you're right. It's a lifetime club that nobody wanted to pay dues for to begin with. But when you're there, whether it's with spouse, whether it's with friend, I'll even go so far as to say with pet, like there
Yeah,
and each type of death is different. So, you know, I know there's a lot of
yes.
people that discount certain deaths, uh, pet death is considered disenfranchised grief, where somebody doesn't quite understand. But if, like, for example, my wife does not have any kids. Her pets are her children. So when one dies, she grieves hard, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I'm not going to tell somebody that they're wrong for doing that just because a pet doesn't have a voice, you know? But I'm also not going to compare any death, whether it's even spouse to spouse, right? Like it's if you're talking
Agree.
with another widow, um, who's to say whose loss is greater? I always state your loss is greater. Whoever I'm talking to, it does not matter because and this is one thing that I do not like. Whenever somebody discounts their own loss, that is so hard to see that they state, well, you've lost a husband too, right? And okay, you're totally taken away from your loss. Like speak it for what it is, own it, live it, and don't steal from yourself like that. That is so hard to hear. And that's
Yeah.
why I think we shouldn't compare any loss at all.
And I think the other thing people discount too is when you've had so much time in between your loss. I'm still a widow. That title is never going to change, no matter what happens here on out. You
Yeah.
know, it's been what, almost 13 years. So I still grieve him almost every day. I think about him every day.
Hmm.
That won't change.
No. And I think that's your own testimony too, that you can still live life, but you can still honor, right? You had a
Yes.
commitment to him in life and in death. You still honor him. So I think
Hmm.
it's a wonderful thing that, and I've talked about this before with other people who have lost a spouse and now are dating or married again. And I look at your boyfriend, Chris, and I sit there and think that's kind of a testament to who he is and his character that he states, you know what, your story needs to be heard. And
Yes.
it was involving a man that's not me. And he still wants you to be able to tell that story. That's pretty awesome. And it tells me that
I
he's
agree.
secure in himself because
Yeah.
somebody who's insecure would probably try to stamp out your story or discount your story or get you to stop talking about your story. So good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't say he's not the first person I dated, and I have had that in the past. And
Mm,
it's not good to be stifled. He's right. If my story can help one person to just be optimistic and get through a day where they think they just want to curl up in the corner and sniff their loved one's shirt. I'm using that as an analogy because I feel like I had some very good friends who almost insinuated that's what I should be doing. I shouldn't be going out and continuing to do the things that he and I had planned, even, a few weeks after. I should be home and I should be there grieving him, not doing the things that remind me that I'm still alive. Because, I mean, if we're honest, I could be the one that's also dead too.
sure.
Uh, I'm going to honor my life as well. I'm still here. I'm still living.
Yeah,
So we get one life, and
that's
I'm going
it.
to live the hell out of it.
Yeah. The shoulda, woulda, couldas. Everybody's got a better plan for you than what you have for yourself, according to who? Them, right? They want you to
Yes,
do grief the way that they would or they did. And that's the thing is a lot of the people that want to give you advice on how to grieve probably have not been in your position to begin with.
that's very true.
Well, this has been quite interesting and gone into several places that I didn't even think we would get to. So it's been a really good podcast. Um, what are we missing here, Brandy?
I
Anything
don't know.
that let me ask you a couple of questions. You mentioned your
Sure.
stepdad and how that was a hard loss. How
Yeah.
did that differ? Um, you had two major losses there that you spoke of this episode. How did they differ in the way you grieved?
I I actually lost my gram, who was like, ooh, that'll get me teary. She was like my mom. When my mom couldn't be around, my mom was working. So I lost her a few years before Kevin. I lost my dad in 2000. And I almost feel like I went through pretty profound grief with my father, my dad, I call him. Because I was a daddy's girl. I was his stepdaughter, but never would he say that I was his stepfather at all. I was his daughter.
Mm,
And I feel like it almost prepared me for the loss of my husband. Um,
yeah,
I took a different approach to death after Kevin passed. When my dad passed, I went into deep depression. I was postpartum. So Josh was born in April, no, sorry, June. He was born in June. My dad passed in August. So I was 2 months postpartum with him, and I really plummeted. I was put on meds, and I worked my way off of those meds, and I'm super proud of how hard I had to work to get off of that.
yeah,
And I remember after Kevin's passing, and Brett, I don't know how to say this other than I don't know if it was the fact that I almost died too, but after Kevin, I can remember walking outside and thinking, I feel the air on my face and I hear the leaves rustling and in the trees from the wind blowing. And I took a different perspective where I was almost more appreciative of life. And I think a lot of people may have had a problem with that, um, because I did enjoy life that much more because I
yeah.
found out how precious and how fragile life can be.
Yeah. And sometimes it takes that eye-opening experience for us to have those heightened senses like that. That, oh my
Yes.
goodness, I smell, I see, I
Yes.
feel. And
Yes.
a lot of times I think we're just going through life. It reminds me of the movie, and I've probably mentioned this on here before. I do like it, but the Adam Sandler movie Click, where he's just kind of going through the motions on things, and just kind of fast forwarding through the crappy parts of life. And I think all of us are doing that to a degree, and you got to think
Yes.
our generation forward, um, we have been inundated with technology and things. I remember whenever I grew up at Christmas, I got one big item, I'll say, and clothes and a couple of candy canes. That was our deal. Now it's like we live in the age of entitlement where every kid has everything, and it's just um, you look at Netflix. You and I grew up with probably three, four stations on the
Blockbuster.
TV. Yeah, and Blockbuster, right? There is one
Please
Blockbuster
rewind
still out there.
before you return.
That's right. We're going to charge you a dollar because you didn't rewind this movie and tell a kid what. I mean, kids are asking, what's rewind? Like, what is that? But now you can watch a billion things, whether it's
Yes.
Netflix, Hulu, whatever. And what do we say? I don't know what to watch. There's nothing on, right? It's
I know. I'm bored. I don't know what to do.
yeah. So I think when we have so much, I'll list one other thing. Think about this. If you were to sit here and think about your favorite picture of you and Kevin, you probably have a paper copy of that. And now it's like, and when we took pictures years ago, we had 35 millimeter and whatever else was out at that point. And it's
Disc.
like, yeah, disc. And we every picture we made it count because it was limited, right?
Yeah, and you
Now
had to pay a fortune to get those
that's
processed.
right. And you couldn't wait to show up to, Kmart or wherever and like look through the pictures. And, you didn't have to buy the ones that were black or fuzzy or whatever. You could discard those. And, but you hoped all of them developed and that they were good pictures. And then you would be like, why did we take a picture of that? There was a few of those. But now that we have unlimited pictures on our camera or on our phones, it's like it doesn't mean anything anymore. It's we're taking pictures of our food. Like, did we do that very often back in the day? Probably not. Maybe a birthday cake or something like that, but not just, hey, I'm going to sit at a meal and break out my 35 millimeter camera and zoom in on this, lobster or whatever. But I think that's it. So when we go through a death, if we've been in those modes of just operating, I guess, and taking things for granted, it does open our eyes. It opens up all of our senses to, wow, this can be removed from me at any time. And
Yep.
in this case, it was. Hmm. Brandy, it's been a pleasure speaking with you and just getting to know your story more. I really appreciate you coming on and opening up. Uh, I have to say this for the listeners because there's probably somebody out there who wants to tell their story, and but whenever I first reached out to you, you were almost like, "Is this legit? Is this guy for real?" So
I was like, oh, is this one of those guys who just wants to say, how you doing? Can I send you money? I'm like, who is this guy?
no, I'll take your money, but I'm not going to send you any. No, I appreciate you coming on this podcast. I
I need
really do.
I need to start selling feet pictures or something.
I have heard that so much, and there's got to be somebody out there that's buying because that must be the thing. Um,
That's what I think.
isn't that horrible that somebody would rather, I guess, buy feet pictures than to come on TikTok and actually learn about grief? That's depressing to me.
It is. It is.
Anyway, Brandi, it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Listeners, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Grief Observed podcast. And if you want to be on the show, please reach out to me. And if you want to know more about Brandi and her story, I'll have her TikTok information in the show notes. I would highly recommend you go look at the rest of the story. I'll catch you on the next episode. Have a great day, everyone.